everybody, welcome to another episode of 5v5 Live on Shot Callers Esports. It's another beautiful Wednesday, and I'm Eric Kummel here with the one and only Mark Horner to break down some LCS news, other stuff around the world of League of Legends, because we're in the thick of the seasons across all the different regions.
Week 4. I put up the 5. Excuse, the thumb doesn't count. That's not a finger, so it's 4.
5 minus 1.
Yeah,
the
4.
classic.
Week 4.
There was a bit of news coming out of the EU LCS just earlier today, and that is surrounding H2K. Apparently, they've signed Selfie, who was obviously let go from the Cloud9 Academy team in the offseason. Didn't really have a chance to find a team, but it looks like he's going to be signing with H2K, and there's even a rumor that he's going to come in for Kadril in that mid lane, and Kadril is going to play jungle. Santorin's out.
Oof. That is pretty crazy. You know, Santorin is a guy who, you know what, I've really loved watching his career, and I'm a big fan of his, but so far this split, the performance hasn't been there. It just simply has not been up to the level that you need to be having on the LCS stage in order to give your team a chance, and especially at the jungle position where you're able to impact so many of these lanes early that it really is crucial, and Santorin just hasn't been bringing it for H2K. Now, talking about Selfie coming into the mid lane, that has me excited. This is a guy that we were talking about that he didn't get his chance with C9, and you know, there were some certain situations and circumstances there that led to it on both sides, but this is a guy who I think has a lot of talent and really can prove himself, and I hope this is an opportunity for him.
Yeah, and I mean, I understand doing some changes for H2K because, yeah, they look terrible. I thought they'd be a lot better, maybe contending for that final playoff spot, but they look rough. But a role swap, that's probably not going to solve many issues.
Role swap is definitely risky for sure.
Yeah, even if Santorin has been struggling, I don't know if a role swap's the answer. Again, that's just a rumor. That may not actually be true, but it does sound like Selfie will at least be starting in that mid lane this weekend.
Some interesting things going on, and you can definitely see that as a change with H2K. This is one of those teams that eventually, when franchising comes into the EU LCS next year, would certainly be up towards the top of the list of as far as the teams that you would want to be franchised. And this is another example of them showing that, you know what, we are not going to be complacent. We do make moves in order to become a better team and try some things. So I do like this as a sign of, you know, kind of showing again to Riot, not that they really needed to, but hey, we're an invested partner into this, and we're invested in our team and how our results come out.
And when you lose to UOL, apparently it just means your entire team.
You need to make some changes.
You need to make some changes. LCK Week 4, a couple of juicy matchups, starting with the always seemingly struggling SKT. They finally win a series. They had a 6-game losing streak finally snapped, and Blossom started all 3 games in the jungle. That's been by far the biggest question mark position for SKT this season.
Yeah, and it definitely was one of these things where you're like, oh, that's what a gank looks like from SKT. Whoa. We haven't seen those for a couple of weeks. No, Blossom really provided something that Blank just simply wasn't giving to this roster before. He really had an impact in the game, and you know what? That impact sometimes was bad. Sometimes Blossom was going a little too deep and feeding the enemy team in Game 2 and at the start of Game 3, but he really rebounded in this series, and I saw a lot of positives from him, and I do like what he's bringing to the SKT roster.
And we got to talk about this game too real quick. 73+ minutes. SKT, they just continue to play these insanely long games. This is what happens when you have to try and push a base against an Azir and Sivir. It takes an eternity.
We're watching this and we're looking at it and we're like, okay, they've got all, you slap in your face because you can't believe you couldn't close it out earlier. You had three of the inhibitors down. You've got all your powerful minions there, and of course what happens? Well, Sivir clears one wave 1 second, Azir clears the next wave, and they're gone. You had nothing to push with. It was incredible. Really fun game to watch. Also frustrating, though, at the exact same time, the mix of it. What was really cool to see, though, in that one, if you go back and watch, Faker around, you know, I can't remember when. What is it? Maybe the 50-minute mark or so in the match. Just absolutely had his dancing shoes on. BBQ could not land a skill shot on him. Faker really stepped up as well this series and really put the team on his back and showed that, hey, he can still hard carry.
Yeah, you saw in those clips there that Game 3 on the Casa win. SKT impressively rebounded from a 73-minute loss. You got to feel a little tilted after one of those games, but they came back in Game 3 and won in just over 30 minutes. A pretty clean game. Faker's Cassidy got rolling, and Just like that, they're in 7th.
Kassadin with Unsealed Spellbook for Faker was just not fair. Not fair. He was taking advantage of it to the full guard. And you saw there, Kummel was smiling. Smiling Kummel. When does that ever happen? Put the belt away. SKT, 7th place. They're climbing up in the LCK.
2 and 5. Wow, here they come. Look out. The actual top of the standings also got underway earlier this morning with KT taking on Kingszone. Kingszone has looked absolutely unbeatable with Khan in the lineup, and that trend continued on this morning. I mean, KT, anytime there's a big hyped up match, they seem to disappoint, and look at this, they disappoint.
It was, I saw earlier someone was saying, how do you feel about SKT struggling? And this was obviously before, picking up big, powerful win number 2 on the season. But they were talking about it and they said, well, I'll tell you how I feel about it if KT is doing well. And someone said, well, let's be cautious about KT doing well. And this is exactly why. They come up against a team here with the pedigree to beat them, and they just can't get anything done. They were absolutely, and this is not an understatement, completely outclassed by Kingszone. And that's not that they don't have the players to match up with it. Khan and Smeb is an absolute top lane matchup that you're dying to see and love, and it was pretty even. Well, that was until Peanut showed up and absolutely took over the game. So that was absolutely an incredible performance from Kingszone, and they've really proven themselves. And hey, they're number 1 in the rankings. They are alone at the top.
Yeah, and I feel like Peanut is looking a lot more comfortable. He looked great in this series. I mean, a guy like Khan, you can't say enough about. He just absolutely murders opposing top laners, even when it's a guy named Smeb. He was totally outplayed by Khan in this series, but Peanut seems to be fitting in super well with this squad, and they might even look stronger than they did last split, which is pretty terrifying.
Yeah, this is definitely a team that is not to be messed with. They are the real deal.
Yeah, and they're doing so well that even that bot lane, I don't want to say it's underrated, but it almost is for like...
It's hard to say underrated with Prey and Gorilla.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the best bot lanes, maybe the best bot lane in the world, but they just still, Khan and even now Peanut and BDD to a degree are taking attention away from them. That lineup from top to bottom is terrifying.
Yeah, you can't say enough about it. Really impressed with what we're seeing from Kingszone. And hey, even the name Kingszone is starting to warm up on me here.
It's not Prince Zone, it's King.
Hey.
They're going to the top.
Number 1.
6 and 1, they sit atop the standings. I don't see SKT ever catching them, that's for sure.
It's going to be tough.
Patch 8.3. The notes are out. It's now live on servers. There's going to be tons of nerfs to Zoe, right? Well, I'll tell you what the nerf to Zoe is. It is a 0.25 second cooldown on her Q at max level. Wow. She's out of the meta after that, man.
Like,
whoa.
I don't know what they're doing. You know what? Fake news. Get rid of Zoe from the list of nerfs here until you actually do something to her that's going to matter. This is just ridiculous. The thing that they're getting rid of, the paddle start, no one said that that needed to be on a shorter cooldown or even longer. That's not what was wrong with her. The thing that's wrong is the trouble bubble, the E. There is zero counterplay to that right now, unless she just misses it. But guess what? It's right back up again and she can do it. It's just not fair going up against that. They really need to look at her and get some counterplay into her kit.
Yeah, I'm expecting 8.4 to be some more serious nerfs. I don't know how they can think that'll make a change. Also, you saw there Swain. The new reworked Swain is going to be available on the Rift, basically Vladimir 2.0. We'll see.
Vladimir's daddy.
I never know how to judge these updated champions or new ones. I mean, I thought Ornn was broken right away. He wasn't. Then they buffed him. He was broken. I thought Zoe was broken. She's right. She is broken.
She still is.
Just say they're broken. You're right half the time. Some other changes. Azir Q. His cooldown is up, and his W now draws minion aggro. Is that enough to take him out of the meta? Probably not.
I don't think it's really enough to take him out of the meta, but it's definitely something that I think Azir players are going to have to be very aware of. You're going to have, especially when you're playing on the LCS, talking about playing Azir and drawing that minion aggro is going to be something that you're not used to with Azir, and it's definitely going to be changing the way that you're trading and dealing poke damage now.
Yeah, and also Kog'Maw, the king of the bottom lane, his W damage is down 2% of their max health at max level, so it's down to 5 from 7. The main issue is just Rage Blade as an item, I think, for Kog'Maw and Varus.
The thing here is, I guess this is a bit of a nerf to Kog'Maw's scaling, which is one of those things where everyone used to say, Kog'Maw, the late game scaling champion. Well, not really anymore. Kog'Maw is more of a mid-game beast now, especially especially when he hits that power spike of the Rage Blade. Him and Varus are the two champions that I think really benefit the most from the Rage Blade, and it's one of those power spikes in this game that is a surreal thing to be experiencing.
Also in the bottom lane, although he's not really played there anymore, Lucian, the passive damage is up and the crit modifier up to, I think, 60 or 70% from 50 on that second shot from his passive. Is that enough to put him back in the bottom lane? Probably not. Keep him top.
You know what? Yeah, he's going to probably stay top or mid. You know what would probably bring Lucian back into the bot lane is if you change his auto attack range. I feel like that is definitely something.
That'd be a big buff.
That would be a huge buff, but that is something that if you want him to be more of a primary AD carry, that's where he's going to have to be. Is definitely more so towards that side. But for now, you know what? Nice buffs that might bring him back a little bit.
Yeah, I'm okay with his lower attack range, but you need to kind of reward people for playing that more risky play style with the low attack range and give him more damage. So this is a step in the right direction. I think there might need to be one more buff to make him more viable in that bottom lane, but then he might be busted as a solo laner. So
right. I don't think you're going to see the Lucian builds anymore. Blade of the Ruined King. I don't think you're going to see too many of those into the Black
Give me the crit, baby.
Yeah, I think you're going to be going more for the crit builds now.
One of the big changes in this patch is the Ryze Zhonya's Rum Warp out. It's gone. It's dead. Thank goodness.
I've got a buddy who plays Ryze, and he is so upset about this. He has used that move so many times to get out of trouble. And really, you know what? It wasn't so bad. You know what? It did feel cheap, and I would complain about it myself when I would have a Ryze do that and escape from me. But at the same time, I think it's only really become a problem now that Stopwatch has entered into the meta and everything like that. I feel like that's why it's been brought up to the forefront now. But you know what? Count me among those that are happy to see it go away.
Yeah, I mean, you heard on all the LCS broadcasts, Deficio in particular, anytime someone escaped a gank or got out of a lost team fight with that, sometimes with the whole team with you, it was like, oh my God, come on. It was just, you were not being punished for mistakes. So I'm glad that's out of there. Another change, Spellbook, the CDR on your summoner spells is down to 15%. From 25, so down 10%. Is that enough? Everyone's taking that. You're taking it on Kog'Maw, Sivir, Kalista.
I don't think it's definitely not going to be enough. And I still think one of the things that you're going to be seeing with Spell Thief is definitely, not Spell Thief, excuse me. Spellbook is that you're going to be seeing champions in the jungle like Skarner, I think, become more popular. This idea of a guy who, can have his flash on absolute, no cooldown and just flash ult in. These are the type of things that Spellbook allows you to do, and there has not been a significant enough nerf that I don't think you might start to see some of these champions not appear. I think that you will see them, and I think that when you talk about other nerfs coming into the jungle, this is a good time.
Yeah, and then the last big change in 8.3 is to do with Stopwatch, what we were talking about earlier. The Stopwatch and the free boots from the Magical Footwear rune are now on the same tier, so you can't pick both. You have to go with one or the other. And also, the Stopwatch now sells for 20 gold instead of 120. That is a big change, and that's going to see a lot less Stopwatches, I feel like.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting change, and don't forget, that if you had Stopwatch and Magical Footwear set into your runes before,
got to change them.
You got to change it because it's going to automatically default going to Grasp. And I'm pretty sure not all of you are going to be wanting using Grasp on all your champions. So definitely make sure to change that one. I think it's a good change. I think these are things that were very powerful and provided great benefits to players, and were ones that were taken on almost all champions in pro scenes. So it's definitely one that I'm excited to see some changes come towards.
So some good changes in this patch, some things that needed to happen, and then some changes that likely won't be enough. We also didn't mention the Sejuani cooldown increase on her Q in the early levels. I feel like that's going to do nothing.
See, I feel like it in the early parts of the game, I'm hoping it has that impact that she won't be quite as dangerous with her CC on her ganks. But again, it's going to be back to the same when she fully scales up, and that's quite an issue because Sejuani has been dominating the jungle meta so far. And I'd like to see, again, as I bring up things like Spellbook Skarner, I'd like to see, a couple different takes on it. And I think that her power has led to her staying there for a bit too long.
But for now, keep on permabanning Zoe because she is still
We're getting
gonna be
there.
busted.
You know what? 8.1 did not like Relic Shield. 8.2, a little better. 8.3, maybe a slight bit better than 8.2. We're on a trending up. We're trending up.
That's what happens when you unleash a whole new Rune system and a massive preseason. It takes a little bit of time.
We're getting there.
Pool party. What could that be? We having a pool party today? No. The pool party is April 7th and 8th at the NALCS Finals because they're going down to Miami.
Woo.
And it's not going to be quite as spacious an arena as you've seen in the last couple of years. They're going to the Fillmore Theater, which only seats a little over 2,000. I mean, you look at the last couple of, they went to Madison Square Garden, the ACC. These places have like 15,000 seats. Not the case this year.
No, you look at it and you're looking back on it, like, you know, every year, summer and spring split combined have been over, basically since 2016, 30,000 combined for attendance. And this is definitely one of those ones where you're like, well, I don't know how you're going to get to, you know, 30,000 now, starting behind at 2.4. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think it's an actually good spot for them to go in for the spring split. It's early in the year, definitely, you know, not the same type of hype that comes around the summer split leading towards Worlds. So I like them going down to Miami. I think that Florida has a very strong player base for them there. It's going to be interesting to see when you talk about 2,400 tickets and, you know, they kind of tout up this great player base there. Well, there's not really a lot of tickets to go around for that great player base then. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I think that when you compare this, though, to previous events, look back at the quarterfinals in 2016 for Worlds. They held them at a theater in Chicago, a very intimate environment. And I think that that's exactly the type of thing that we're going to see here for the spring split, a very loud and close-up crowd. And I think it's going to be a nice one.
Yeah, Riot will have to do it properly, where if, there's a lot of fan interaction and how they actually set up the seating is done well, because otherwise it is just going to look like a bit of a step back with a much less packed arena than we're accustomed to seeing at these final events in League of Legends. But if Riot does it well, I think it'll be a unique experience that people will enjoy.
When you talk about Riot doing it well, I think that Riot has to go full out on the Miami Vice theme and make it like a nightclub inside.
New uniforms for everyone.
I want that, the neon lights, everything going on. Give me a full-on. I want them to record a full-on segment of Hanser in Miami Vice. I didn't know I needed that until I saw the artwork announcing Miami, but it's absolutely perfect. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out, League of Legends Esports. It's a really cool drawing showing off the players in Miami.
Yeah, they do a good job usually of these animations and stuff. Let's get to some of these LCS matches of the week. That's what the MOTW stands for. If you haven't figured it out by now, or if it's your first time watching the show.
It's okay. Take some time. Take a breather.
Starting off in NA, you got basically the battle of first place. Starting off, you've got Cloud9 taking on Team Liquid, which again, 2 5-1 squads. You got the TSM CLG rivalry renewed, and then Liquid and Echo Fox. 2 more 5-1 teams, but the theme here is Vengeance Games. You got Liquid going up against Cloud9, or not Liquid, Impact going up against Cloud9. TSM CLG Biofrost versus his old team, and then Echo Fox and Liquid. You got Huni and Adrian against the former Immortals pal,
teams.
Notorious POB.
See, I'm really excited for this Cloud9 Team Liquid revenge matchup that you've been talking about, especially this week, because Impact had an interview where he came out and said, Cloud9, all their players are dumb. They play dumb. And it was meant in a joking type of fashion and kind of in a nice way, tongue-in-cheek. But at the same time, he wasn't kidding. He was criticizing the way that they've played and kind of, almost in a sense of, a chicken running with its head cut off. But at the same time, he did give them credit, and it's something that we all absolutely do have to give them credit for, is C9 is so strong in their team fights and in their individual skill that it doesn't matter that they're running around with their heads cut off for the most part in these things. Licorice wanting to go off and just solo a bunch of times. It doesn't necessarily matter too much, because when it does come down to these important moments, the team is good enough and their team fighting skills are strong enough that they're able to come out on top. I think Cloud9 is definitely a for real contender here, but my pick is going to be Team Liquid. I think Team Liquid has enough synergy and strength right now, especially, again, the benefit that they have from ironing out their communications while they were on their boot camp in Korea is certainly extremely valuable, and one that I think is going to be part of the reason why they get ahead of Cloud9 in this matchup.
I mean, it's hard to go against Liquid after they completely demolished the competition in week 3, 2 sub 30-minute games. Yeah, it was a weak schedule they had, but I mean, they looked like they were in a different league against some of those squads. If Licorice keeps playing like he has through these first 3 weeks, I think he's really going to shut up all the people who are saying, oh, Licorice, what a massive downgrade from Impact. How will C9 ever be a good team again? He's looked fantastic for the first 3 weeks, and I think he can more than hold his own against Impact, because he already has against some of the top-tier top laners around the rest of the league. And another guy I want to talk about on C9 is Smoothie. The last year or so, I mean, he was looked at as one of the top supports in NA, but he was kind of taking a backseat to guys like Ole or even someone like Biofrost or Afro, looked to as the leaders of their squad. But this year, I don't think you can argue that he's been the best support in NA so far.
I think Smoothie has been absolutely the best support in NA so far. He has really stepped up his game. He's performing fantastic in lane with Sneaky right now, and definitely a really big boost for Cloud9. And I've really loved, again, one of the great things about Smoothie that I think he arguably does better than any other support in North America are his roams. He just has this incredible sense for when he needs to be roaming around the map to help out his team, and that communication and everything that he brings. Smoothie has absolutely been at the top of his game helping C9.
TSM, CLG, the oldest rivalry in the history of NA, probably in the history of League of Legends.
The El Clasico.
It's not quite as hype as it's been in recent years.
That kind of comes into both teams being 3-3.
That's true, but I mean, even when they're maybe struggling, I mean, they both had great weeks last week. 15 of the last 17 games, TSM has won that these guys have played. They've dominated this rivalry ever since CLG won the 2016 finals in 5 against TSM.
Do you think we're going to see Hotshot and Reggie put another bet on the line? You know, the time that Hotshot had to get the TSM logo tattooed on his forehead last year.
There's the pink hair he had to get.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you have to at this point.
All I know is that, like, when you talk about all these TSM wins here, all I know is that every time they're making this bet, Hotshot keeps trying to get Reginald into the Annie cosplay. It's not going to happen if CLG is not winning it here, and I don't think that CLG will get it this week. Again, a CLG, a team that had a much better week last week. But again, you know who else had a better week last week? TSM. TSM really made some great strides in their performance, and I think, again, they are continuing on a great upward trend as far as how their communication goes and how well they're synergizing together. I think that this team, and again, the strength that Mike Young is starting to show in the jungle, starting to be less apprehensive and make the plays that everyone has known him for in solo queue, I think that is what you're going to see more of from TSM and will help propel them to a victory over CLG.
Yeah, I do definitely think that both these teams were on an upward trend, as you saw last week. But I think CLG might take this one. I think Biofrost in his vengeance game after getting cut from TSM, that bottom lane looked leaps and bounds better for CLG last week. And yeah, Mike Young's getting better, but he has talked about getting nervous on stage and being a little bit afraid of making mistakes. I think if Reignover picks something that's going to be aggressive and in his face early on in the game, that might set Mike Young back and give CLG a big advantage going forward. And when TSM's playing from behind, they kind of just sit there and wait. Hopefully they make a mistake. CLG doesn't make mistakes. So perhaps they win the game.
As we've mentioned, though, I think that when you look at CLG, and we talk about an improved week last week, and they were better, Stixxay and Biofrost were much better last week than they had ever appeared so far, and that's saying a lot because they looked really bad to start this split. They have looked better, but at the same point in time, they're going up against Sven and Mithy, the best established bot lane in the West.
Still haven't looked dominant.
Still haven't looked dominant, but they have looked better than Stixxay and Biofrost, and I do expect that trend to continue on Sven and Mithy's improvement in North America, and I do think that will be, again, another reason that might help TSM, but I think that there is some great validity to the point about Reignover possibly coming out with a great strategy right out of the gate and putting Mike Young back. And again, this is a guy who's shown that if he's thinking about, you know, my performance and what's going on and I'm behind now, you might be able to get that jump on TSM and keep pushing them down in that matchup.
Liquid taking on Echo Fox. Listen, Team Liquid had a joke week in week 3. Week 4, Echo Fox and Cloud9. That is a tough schedule. If they manage the 2-0 this week, then they are definitely, you're looking at them as the best team in NA. Do you see them 2-0? You got them beating Cloud9. They beat Echo Fox?
Yes.
Ooh,
yes, they beat Echo Fox, and
oh.
I'm sorry, Rick Fox. I love you, Daddy, but I gotta go against you. It's gonna be Team Liquid. I'm paid by Steve. It's gonna happen. I'm looking at it, and again, the thing that is impressive about Team Liquid that we talk about is the way that they're able to stomp these games out. Other teams have been, going for the late game wins. They've been stalling out, trying to find ways, not able to close. Team Liquid is a team that is able to absolutely close and take advantage of their chances here. But you know who also does that? Echo Fox. So I feel like this is definitely going to be
a 25-minute
This is going to be an explosive matchup, but I'm going with my gut feeling, and I'm choosing Team Liquid.
Yeah, I think Liquid, you're right. They've basically, a lot of their games they've won, they've kind of just stomped in lane and kind of extended that lead to close out the game. I don't think they're going to stomp lanes against Echo Fox. I think Rune might have his way with Impact if there's not a lot of jungle attention there. So it's going to be a different experience for Liquid, potentially playing from behind. And I think Echo Fox could maybe take advantage of that and come away with the win here. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of kills in this game, I think.
I think this is going to be a bloody one, but definitely one where you mentioned there in that top lane that I think that if you're Echo Fox, that's where I would be bringing most of my focus to, because we've seen Pobelter before. This game, especially against FlyQuest, Pobelter was getting absolutely camped early game, but still comes out on top and deals an incredible amount of damage as Corki here. This is Pobelter. He is a guy who can absolutely absorb an insane amount of pressure in the mid lane, so you're basically wasting your time going up against him. I think that it's better spent with Dardoch helping out Rune in the top lane, trying to get an advantage over Impact. I think that's where Echo Fox could possibly find a victory, but I don't see that happening. I see Team Liquid coming out on top.
I mean, yeah, if they put up a 2-0 week this week, then that is definitely the team to be reckoned with in North America, but they'll have their hands full with a couple of difficult tests going forward. 3-way tie at the top of the standings at 5-1, and that is going to be broken.
Team Liquid's no longer in fourth. The curse is over for now.
I mean, technically, they're pretty close. They're third right now, I guess you could say. So they're still there. There's always a chance.
Hey, don't let me down now, Liquid. Don't let me down now. I've got Steve's money in my pockets. I'm feeling good. Don't let me down. I
mean, they could finish fourth in the regular season, or they could finish first in the regular season and go fourth, lose that third place match. So there's still options there. Let's look at EU for week 4. Not quite as many interesting matchups as NA, I don't think, but there's still some intriguing ones. There's a lot of teams sandwiched in at 3-3 over in EU. So you got Schalke and G2. It's basically, you're separating the contenders from the pretenders in week 4 for EU. G2 looked a lot better last week, 2-0'd that one. We'll see how they match up against Schalke. Vitality's the talk of the town in EU, and Splice is a team that has looked pretty good or terrible. So we'll see if they're actually a contending team. Giants at 4-2. Are they actually a top-tier team in EU? I think this is the last time we see them in the top 3, this split.
I think these are some good matchups again. As you've said, they're not quite the high-profile ones, these big battles that we're going to see in North America this week. But I think when you're talking about the EU LCS, it's definitely going to be who's for real. You look at that first match with G2 and Schalke. These are teams that do need to prove that you're going to be elite. They're sitting kind of right in the middle, 3-3, and we haven't seen the most impressive of performances from them. So definitely an important match to get the better of your opponent and pick up that win and keep climbing the leaderboard there. I think that G2 will be able to do it. I've got enough faith in this roster, still improving, still figuring things out. And again, the synergy. We bring it up a lot. The synergy that this roster needs to develop together, the cohesiveness of knowing whose call to follow when is definitely very important. And I feel like G2 is working towards that again, like other teams are, and will propel them to a victory over Schalke.
Yeah, I mean, these two squads have 2 remaining players that were on their rosters from 2017.
A lot of changes.
Upset and Perks. G2 played a super clean week last week. They had 3 deaths across 2 games.
Yeah.
3 team deaths. What?
Not exciting, though, but they still clean. You can't argue with clean.
I mean, they played a much more improved macro game. They didn't get double-digit kills, I don't think, in either matchup, and still were able to get pretty sizable gold leads. Yeah, one of these wins is against H2K, which...
G2 is just playing so clean that I was waiting for that guy from Stranger Things to show up and say, hey, it's a tie dad. But it never happened. Never happened. G2, too clean. I think that, again, they're going to continue on this performance improving and will take advantage of Schalke.
Yeah, I like G2 in this matchup as well. Schalke, they looked really good against Giants. Nukeduck was playing out of his mind in that game on that AP Galio. Upset had some questionable flashes, but he still did the most damage in the game and I like seeing him more aggressive rather than just sitting back, which you kind of saw in some of these other games. I want to see him on these hyper carries where he can take over a game. So they look good against Giants, but against Vitality, they just...
Oh my goodness.
They were outclassed. They seemed lost. They were just losing objective trades left, right, and center. Vitality's getting free turrets here, free dragon there. Schalke, when there's not team fights going around, they just look like they didn't know what they were doing. So that's something they've definitely got to fix in terms of mid-game shot calling and just how to play the game, really. But I think they'll improve there.
Well, they better hope so if they're going to take down G2. And the only way I really do see them taking down G2, and it's nothing against Upset and the type of performance I think he can bring, you know, doing his best wild turtle impressions, going all aggressive and getting in there. But I think, again, it is going to have to be Nukeduck. Nukeduck will definitely have to step up his game once again like he has in the past couple of weeks if they ever want to beat G2 in this matchup. And I think that's going to be a tough ask going up against Perks, and especially, again, then having to withstand the pressure from Jankos.
Well, we talked about Vitality. They are, again, they're the most hyped team. They're the top of the standings.
Right there.
5-1. It's getting harder and harder to argue that this team isn't for real. The team they're playing this week, Vitality, it's not hard to argue if they're for real or not, because I have no idea. They look so different from game to game. They're beating Misfits in a kind of sloppily played game, and then they're losing to these lower tier squads. And I'm not sure how they even have 3 wins. Outside of Kabi, the rest of the team is not performing that well.
And the big problem that I've really had with Splyce is in the mid lane. Niski has got to step up his performance. This is someone who came over from NA after absolutely kind of stunting is maybe a little bit too strong, but performing strong enough that he was absolutely taking advantage of the matchups against Bjergsen and Jensen, guys who are incredible performers in NA, historically speaking. And this is a guy who then came here and was expected to be among the best mid laners in Europe and be really aggressive, and we haven't seen that. It absolutely has not shown up whatsoever, and it's been really something that Splyce was counting on. Splyce was counting on this guy being something that they can rely on, and it hasn't shown up yet, and I think that's why you're seeing them struggle. But when you talk about Vitality and if they're the real deal, I don't know if their whole team is the real deal, but I can tell you 2 players that are absolutely the real deal right now, and that is Jizuki and Mini Trupax. They are unbelievably performing. The Italian and Portuguese, man, are going nuts for this team and are absolutely propelling them all the way to their victories. I've got Vitality winning another one.
Yeah, I like Vitality too. There just seems to be an aura of excitement around the squad. It's a combination of these guys. You hear their comms, you see them after games. Doesn't matter who they're beating. They're fired up to beat these guys. Mini Trupax is firing out shots left, right, and center in any interview that he's doing. And
he's learning from Gilius, man.
He's learning from the Gilius, who's maybe the best at trash talking. He hasn't
best,
done much in his career.
Definitely can be the best trash talker, yeah.
And you throw in a head coach in Yamato Cannon who's just always fired up with these guys. And listen, Cabo Shard has looked much better than he did on Vitality, and it helps when you got guys like Jizuki and Mini Trupax taking a lot of that pressure off you. But I'm feeling the Vitality hype right now. I think they're going to be a legit team heading into playoffs.
All aboard the Vitality hype train. I'm right there.
All aboard. Now, of course, they'll probably go 0-2.
Yeah, and you can blame me for that one.
Last matchup to look out for in Week 4 is Fnatic against Giants. Fnatic looked a lot better last week. Reckless was playing more like his normal self. They should have beat Misfits, man. Oh. They should have beat Misfits. They had that game in the bag. It ended up being a 60-plus minute slop fest.
And I feel good about Misfits, but that match didn't make me feel good about either one of those teams.
That's the second time that it's kind of been like these hyped-up teams in Europe, and it just kind of turned into a mess before Fnatic and G2.
You ever order something for dinner and you're like, yeah, I know this is going to be great. I've had it before. And then it gets to your table and you're kind of like, well, what's this? This doesn't look anything like, yeah. And you're like, oh, I don't want this at all.
I wanted crunchy wontons. These are soggy wontons.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what this,
I was expecting a
Misfits
lot from that game, and I didn't get what I wanted to see. So I'm definitely hoping to see better things from Fnatic. More of what we saw from them later in the week, a really strong performance from them, and what I really love to see, again, I'm a guy who loves to see some Aurelion Sol gameplay, and I thought Caps definitely brought it to the table. He brought some really great positioning and some smart management of his skills on Aurelion Sol. Really like that for the team. It was really something that was necessary for them in order to get the victory over Roccat. Really liked his performance, and I think that against a Giants team, this is someone that you can count on to be a hard carry for your team. One of the things that Fnatic has definitely talked about before is finding ways to become a better team and find victories without Reckless having to carry. Well, I think that this could be a matchup where you find your carries doing the job for you other than Reckless.
Yeah, and to start last week, you had Roccat and Giants facing off as 2 3-1 teams at the top of the standings. After last week, Roccat definitely dropped off quite a bit, and I think you're seeing more closely what this team's actually going to be going forward, and I think Giants are going to follow suit there. Yes, they are 4-2, but I don't see them being a legitimate contender in the EU LCS. I think Fnatic's going to take the win against them, and it's probably going to be the last time we see Giants near the top of the standings. But hey, they performed. They've already exceeded my expectations for that squad for the entire LCS season. Guys like Betsy looked like he did during some of the moments where people thought he was an up-and-coming star on Gambit.
I was gonna say Betsy looked pretty good, but I'm putting my money on Caps this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And Steelback again. Guy got MVP votes a few years ago. He's hot from team to team, but been a pretty consistent carry on each of those squads. But I think Fnatic's gonna take this one, and Giants might be going the route of Roccat, which is the wrong way down the standings.
Sliding down our power rankings next week. Hint, 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 hint.
But I doubted Giants once, and
hey,
they started out 4-1, 4-2.
That's the beauty of best of ones. You never really know. But at the exact same time, I think we've seen enough to say, hey, I don't think that these guys are winning a best of 5 against any one of these teams. So that's kind of the reason to really maybe doubt them a little bit. But hey, we'll see.
We'll see. That's why you watch these games. Those are the main matches to look for. But I mean, there's going to be 20 games this weekend, as there is.
Always lots of action.
Always lots of action. Also, make sure you're sending in your questions today. Any questions about the LCS, LCK, LPL, CB LoL? Mark and I both watch tons of Brazilian League.
Love it.
Tons. We'll get to those questions in just a sec. But before we do that, we got another teaser for you guys from the upcoming documentary Keep Streaming, which is about Twitch. I'm sure you know Dr. Disrespect made his return to Twitch the other night and had like over 300,000 viewers. He was breaking Twitch.
It's crazy.
The website was not working. He broke it. The doctor broke it. So this is a peek of Dr. Disrespect interacting with those hundreds of thousands of different fans at TwitchCon, and Keep Streaming premieres this month.
3 times? What did we do 3 times? We knocked down Summit and H1Z1 3 times. Okay, that's what we did.
I had to meet the man I shared my home.
There you go. Do we need to back up like another 40 feet to get? Just wondering. Okay, we're good. That's what I'm talking about. It's about dominating. And looking good, dominating. Hi, how are you? Okay. Let me introduce myself. All right, $1 billion contracts with Daniel. Yeah. Woo. How you doing? Look at this. You guys see this? Huh? Woo. Man, incredible. That's incredible. Boom.
I mean, the doctor quickly grew to be one of the biggest streamers on Twitch in like less than a year, really. He just grew that channel.
In his own words, the face of Twitch. That's what he's been calling himself. And definitely, he kind of backed it up with his return almost. I don't want to say definitively because we're not totally sure about this yet. There are reports that it topped Tyler 1's return to the Twitch streaming platform and Tyler's return to League of Legends. So that's something Tyler has issued a challenge out to Dr. Disrespect, an arm wrestle challenge. We'll have to see if the doctor accepts. It's a tough one. Tyler's a big dude.
Oh, he's actually a really short dude.
There's a video, and it's Tyler walking in his house, and he goes to this door to issue the challenge to Dr. Disrespect, and of course they've taped up a measuring stick that says that he's 6'5". You're not fooling anybody, Tyler. Come on.
I would love to see those guys play together.
I think that would definitely be interesting. Two very eccentric personalities in the Twitch space.
But again, keep streaming. There's plenty of content from this year's TwitchCon. They met up with tons of different streamers at that event. Elaheim, a lot of the guys from the streaming house that Scars put together, Pokimane, Disguised Toast, guys like that.
If you're into watching Twitch, this is right up your alley. This is all about it.
Absolutely. Coming out later this month. But now it's question time. Everyone's favorite time of the day. We got about 20 minutes, so we'll fire through as many of these as we can. Kyle Schultz, since the first 3 weeks of the LCS have passed, which junglers do you believe are having the best performances? I'll tell you who's not. Lyra is not having the best performances.
And that was someone who you would have thought might have had some of the best performances. I think right now, there are a couple names you can throw out. A guy who hasn't actually played too much is Anda. Anda's performances have definitely been something that I've thought have really helped FlyQuest. And on a different note, I think that if you don't have Anda and Fly for FlyQuest, I don't think that playoffs are in the picture. But when you really talk about who's been the best performing junglers, for me, right now, it has to be guys like Smithy and guys like Dardoch. Those are the two really, in my mind right now, that have really helped their teams a lot. Someone who could become there, is someone like Mike Young. Mike Young will be very important to the success of TSM and can really help them, but he obviously has not shown anywhere close to a top-level performance for that yet. Smithy and Dardoch are my two guys I think you've really seen some strong performances from to start the LCS spring.
Yeah, and I think right now it's hard to dominate in the jungle with the meta right now, so many tanks being played. But I mean, out in EU, Max Lors looked really solid. Last week he didn't look as good as he did through the first few weeks, but out there, Max Lord's looking good. Jankos looks a lot better. I can't really pick one specific jungler or a couple that have completely stood out. It's a more wide open field, I'd say, than other positions right now.
Want to see some more carry junglers come back into the meta before you can really feel confident about those type of decisions.
I love seeing some Kane. Carolus Jankos. Can Febivin and PoE get a decent team? I think Febivin's team should be decent.
Febivin's team should be better than they are performing.
Yeah.
They're doing a disservice to their own names and to Febivin right now with their performance really not helping him because he's been the only carry for them. He's the only reason they really have picked up any of the wins that they have, and he is, again, someone who is elite. He is elite. Let me repeat that again. He's elite.
What is he?
He's elite.
He's elite. Okay.
He's a top-level mid laner in the NALCS, EULCS, wherever he goes, maybe except for the LCK, but Febivin is elite. And he is proving it right now, and he does it when he carries these games. His team needs to back him up. This is someone who, if he's going to make playoffs and make an impact, team needs to help him out. Come on, guys. It's a team game.
Yeah, it's very surprising that Lyra and, to a smaller extent, that bottom lane are the disappointing factors on that squad. Everyone's pointing to Solo. Well, he's been the second best player on that squad. So I think Clutch should be better. PoE, he'll get on a better team when he leaves Optic. But unless they're changing a lot of players.
Again, an Optic, a team that has dedicated themselves to saying they're going to work harder than anybody else and everything else that goes with it. They're not an awful team.
They're 1-5, and I think
they've
been a little better than that record shows. They've been better than I expected.
Just not enough. And you're I think that's a good point. Febivin and Power of Evil are two very strong players that arguably could be looking at their teammates and saying, hey, we need a little bit more from you guys if we're going to get some results.
Absolutely. Couple bottom lane questions. Is Doublelift and Ole a good bot lane? And who has the best bot lane in NA? Well, Doublelift and Ole are definitely good.
They're a pretty dank bot lane. Ole learned the word dank from Doublelift this week and was asking how it was used. And I told him, you're a dank bot lane, bro. That's as simple as it gets. That's a very good bot lane.
Horrible teacher for anything outside of actually playing League of Legends.
Well, think about it, actually. So if you're looking at the Team Liquid roster, you have Impact, who learned meme-glish, as I like to call it, English from Sneaky and the guys at C9. And then now he's on Liquid, and he's learning kind of trash-talking, toxic language from Doublelift. So it's great. So it's a good mix. When you talk about the actual best bot lanes, I think that, yeah, Doublelift and Olay is a really strong one to look at. They're very strong in lane, and again, Olay is someone who has always been very focused on roaming and impacting the map when he can in other places, and I think that they are a very strong bot lane. Again, Sven and Mithy, a bot lane that hasn't shown the dominance that we know that they can bring, but there's no arguing that the talent is there, and I do believe that we are going to see it sooner rather than later.
Right now, through the first couple of weeks, I might go with someone like Sneaky and Smoothie as the best bot lane in NA.
Not going to throw any hate on that one. That one's a good choice too. Sneaky in lane is no longer a meme this year.
Well, it's forever a meme, regardless. If he becomes the best laner of all time, the meme will live on in infamy. But I mean, going forward, yeah, I think Sven and Mithy will be a team you're talking about.
Even Adrian and Altec have been a very solid bot lane and have really not given up any advantages to anyone
That's what we expected out of them. We expected a super solid bottom lane out of that Echo Fox team. And if Dardoch had the opportunity and really the potential to dominate with at least Huni, didn't expect Phoenix to play so well. But yeah, Echo Fox has exceeded.
Good bot lane talent in NA so far.
Will the Golden Guardians finish 0-18? Listen, in best of ones, I want to say that they can grab a game off Optic, off FlyQuest. Right? We've seen some insane upsets where that like 1-17 Echo Fox team beat TSM, or the P1 squad that was struggling a couple years ago. And Nori popped off on Rengar and beat TSM. You got to be. It's even more volatile when you're doing a best of one. So I think they get at least 2 wins.
This is
give them 2.
Oof. It's so hard, right? Again, these are hard to predict in best of ones, and this is a roster that really does need to improve. You're watching this game, the game that they had against TSM, which is, you know, a hard competition for them and an established franchise. But when you look at what happened, especially the gank around in the early parts of the game, I'm questioning, what is Contracts doing? Contracts is supposed to be the guy that you're thinking got skill, he's got talent, he's got smarts. This is the guy that can be a carry for them. And he just goes into the mid lane with High, and High gets picked off, and Contracts just says, oh, I'm going to set up a picnic here and get deleted as Zac. Not smart.
I think that's what the comms were.
Yeah, like I heard that. Not going well. And then obviously you add in, you know, Loco Doco apparently making some remarks to get himself kicked off of the Golden Guardians, and things are not going well for this new franchise. And even when you talk about them, they haven't even put out any type of content that would make you want to be a fan of their roster other than what you already know about these players coming into it. So I really think that as a whole, this franchise needs to step up if they're going to be a better partner for the LCS, and this roster needs to find ways to step up, because right now, I don't even see them taking a game off anybody.
Giving them the 0-18?
I'm giving them an 0-18. Prove me wrong.
That's a tragedy.
Prove me wrong,
I'm a little disappointed at the lack of marketing. That I mean, a team like the Golden State Warriors, you think they'd be able to?
You introduce them at a home game. Kevin Durant giving you the side eye and everything. Even have, you know, a time where they brought in a bunch of employees from the Warriors organization to learn and chat with them about League of Legends. You haven't put out any type of content for the community to get behind your team and your players. Needs to step it up.
Just them meeting Kevin Durant. Is the LCK Spring winner going to be MSI 2018 winner? Well, it looks like Kingszone is going to win Spring, and if they go to MSI, good night, rest of the world.
Simple answer, yes. Longer answer, yes.
Unless there's some crazy upsets in the playoffs, and
which, hey, LCK,
Jin Air runs the table.
Teddy's ready.
Runs the table, gets MVP, and maybe. But I feel like any Kingszone, KSV, KT. If SKT wins Spring, that means they've gone on a crazy run, and I'm thinking they're favorites. Any 4 of them, probably favorites for MSI.
Absolutely. There's just so much depth and strength there within that region that absolutely the winner of that region coming out of it and heading to MSI is already usually, almost in every case, in every position, outscaling and out better than any other team.
It's an all-star lineup against non-all-star teams. A lot of questions about SKT and Blossom. Is Blossom legit? Do you think that Blossom should be the main jungler on SKT, because we've seen some nice aggressive plays today? And how good is Blossom compared to other junglers like Score and Peanut? I'd be starting him going forward.
Yeah. One series, but definitely seen enough of Blank so far this split to say that Blossom is absolutely the better choice right now. I don't know what's going on with Blank and everything that's wrong with his playstyle right now, but Blossom is absolutely the jungler that you need to be starting if you are SKT. I said it at the start of the show. We saw ganks from SKT. How many times did you see a proper gank from Blank in the first couple of weeks? You didn't see it happen. This was just absolutely a better performance from the jungler and something that needs to happen for SKT in order to pick up these wins that they need to have. Because, you know, when we talk about these other teams and other regions needing to pick up wins faster for their short season, yeah, they do need to pick them up, but they're against weaker competition. SKT is going to have a hard time picking up the wins that they do need to get now against some of these upper echelon LCK teams. And so it's going to be very important, and I think that Blossom is one of the keys for them to get back into being one of these top competitive teams there.
Yeah, I mean, SKT is running out of time with just tinkering with this lineup. They need to find one and just stick with it. Yeah, Blossom had some moments where you were like, yep, this guy's clearly a rookie, his first real experience on stage. But I mean, it's still better than Blank. Blank was having games on carry-ish junglers like Kummel and Jax where he's getting nearly out-damaged by supports. I'm not talking about brand support. We're talking about Tom Kench and Alistair.
What was that game that he had on Jax where he had like 600 damage? 600 damage?
This isn't a split-pushing top laner.
Yeah.
That's
oh my God, buddy.
So I'd be starting Blossom going forward.
And as you're right, Blossom has not been the cleanest of junglers to come in.
It's his first time on stage.
Yeah. And I mean, start of game 3, I would have FF'd at 15 and reported him for what he was doing. But
good thing you didn't.
Good thing I didn't. Exactly. That's why I'm here and I'm not Faker, because they absolutely...
That's the only reason.
Yeah. Oh God, don't get me started. But anyways, you've seen enough from Blossom, and I've seen enough to show that he is absolutely the guy that needs to be in the driver's seat in the jungle for SKT to get any type of success this spring split.
The turnaround's now here. The win streak begins. Blossom will never lose another series in the LCK.
Is it too cringy to say SKT will blossom?
Yes.
With Blossom?
Don't say
that.
Good.
I'm glad I said it once.
Cut the tape.
Cut the Western.
How will Sven match up against Smithy?
It's going to be exciting to see, because I think that when you're talking about the matchup that they will bring into the jungle, it's going to be very interesting. Sven has looked okay on C9. He hasn't looked as strong as I want to say Svenskeren would look and what I thought he would bring to this team, but he hasn't looked out of place. But again, Impact brought it up. They do play a bit dumb sometimes, and Svenskeren sometimes has those moments where he goes off kind of the old TSM style still in him, goes off warding and gets caught out and dies. So sometimes not so great, but when you're looking at what Smithy has brought to TL so far, I thought he's been a very great veteran presence, very calm, and he has allowed this roster in these solo lanes to really thrive. And I think that that is something that puts him ahead of Svenskeren right now, and again, is one of the reasons that I think that TL will best Cloud9 this week.
I mean, Svenskeren's the guy who he will die for his team, and a lot of the time he gets flamed for it, but sometimes he's making that sacrifice so Jensen gets away,
Absolutely.
so Sneaky gets away. He takes the brunt of the damage.
He's a good guy
for his team, which is
good
a
guy,
great
Sven.
thing to have as a teammate. He seems to be enjoying himself much more.
Oh yeah,
on the more laxed atmosphere that is C9.
With, hey, I gotta say, those C9 fans, a lot easier to deal with than the TSM fanboys gunning at your neck.
Yes, yeah, but that's a very interesting matchup. In the jungle, I'd probably give a slight edge to Smithy as well. What teams will do well at MSI or Worlds and will be able to put up a fight? Well, MSI will look to Worlds is far away, man. I have no idea.
We are very far. We don't even know who's going to be on each team coming into Worlds, right?
MSI could have some very interesting people heading in there. I mean, if Vitality somehow gets there for EU, that would be a hype team to be watching.
Love to see Jizuki try to style 1v2 against Kingszone, eh?
Don't
know how that's going to turn out.
Pretty much every region outside of the LCK, it's like, I don't know. I don't know who the main favorites would be. It's just Kingszone is the favorite and therefore the favorite to win the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, Kingszone has only pretty much in the last week or two really shown that they are kind of the top echelon. We've known that they've been good, but they've really separated themselves recently.
Wait till they play KSV again.
Yeah,
that's the matchup to look for in 2018 spring. Will Victor be back in the meta? Probably not.
No, it's not enough.
Not a big enough change.
He's still to weak this, when I can't remember exactly the post, but I remember seeing someone who had reached Challenger before with Victor, and when Victor was not strong, even still in a meta, and he said, Victor's not worth your time. Even with the buffs that are coming in, he's just not in a good enough position in comparison to the other mid lane champions and the rest of the meta. Sorry, don't waste your time. I like Victor. I think he's a cool champion too. I love that laser thing.
That's the one.
Pretty cool.
It's got to do more damage so that he can wave clear to the same level as some of these other guys.
Needs some more buffs.
More buffs.
Rito, please.
The best NA mid laner right now.
Best NA.
You know, a guy who's climbed up more than I thought is the notorious POB. One of only 2 domestic mid laners. Again, Bjergsen is technically domestic, but
technically
NA born is Pobalter. But I mean, the best. It's hard to say. You might even mention Pob in there. I still think I'd still go with Jensen.
Yeah, I see where you go Jensen, and I'm going to go Bjergsen. So there's your 2 that everyone always talks about. But I think that you bring up a very good point with Pobalter, because this is some guy that we talked about heading into the season as Pobalter's good, and he's an NA resident and everything. But he hasn't shown us an elite level, right? That level that Jensen and Bjergsen bring, and Febiven coming in here as well. We just haven't seen that kind of upper echelon play from Pobalter. And then, whoa, Pob has really stepped it up, and he's kind of taken over. When you talk about this Team Liquid roster, and yeah, they have double lift and everything else, but Pobalter's kind of the main guy, really, when you're really looking at this team and who the kind of leader is in that mid lane for them. And I've really liked what I've seen from Pobalter so far. And I wouldn't put him as the best mid laner in NA, but I think he's absolutely entered the conversation with Jensen and Bjergsen and possibly Febiven for the most talented elite mid laners in North America.
Young Pob living up to the hype.
Clean machine, Eugene.
A couple more questions. We'll fire.
I will say though, hold on. Eugene last night went up against an Echo that was running some cheese, taking Hunter's Talisman and Smite early. Eugene got bullied quite a bit in that early game. But hey, that's solo queue. That happens.
That's solo queue, man. Sometimes you go 0-10. Sometimes it's more often than not.
Yeah, it was okay because Impact was on Maokai, and boring Maokai cleaned up late game. So don't even worry about it.
Hooney's Lucian or Khan's Riven? You say the name Khan, I'm going Khan, man. That guy's bodying everybody. I would take Khan on...
See, if you're talking about... I'd take Khan on almost every champion.
Yeah, I'd take him on top lane Heimer, man.
Are you asking me, is Khan's proficiency on Riven better than Hooney's proficiency on Lucian?
What do you want on your team?
Possibly.
You want Hooney's Lucian or you want Khan's Riven?
I don't know. Khan is...
You haven't seen his Riven
Khan's
that much.
toxic, right? And Hooney is just a great level guy. Hooney took the former Immortals out to Nobu for a sushi dinner this week.
He's also the tilt master.
Yeah.
And can tilt off the face of the earth.
Hey, Hooney's wholesome. I like him. I'm going with Hooney's Lucian here, but Khan's Riven was certainly a special thing. It's not the Riven that I've seen play with me in my games, I'll tell you that.
No, we haven't seen many games. We've seen more Lucian out of Hooney than Riven on Khan, but I'd like to see more Riven. Last question here. Do you think SKT have a chance at MSI or Worlds? Listen, they're not out of Worlds yet.
Yeah,
for sure. They could finish 10th in spring and still make Worlds.
I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. Someone asked if can SKT make it to semifinals of Worlds? And again, that's very far off, and we don't know the rosters. But I gave the answer that yeah, Faker can carry them. Faker's done it before. He's done it on the 5-game Galio G. And then you watch more of the rest of the team with Blank and Intara, and you're like, oh, I really wish I didn't say that because I don't know if Faker can do it. Now, Worlds is far away. There might be some changes. But when you bring up MSI, I don't think we're going to see SKT there. I don't think that they're going to get enough done in time and enough growth to really pull this off, especially when you get towards the gauntlet that is going to be the LCK playoffs. I think that they're going to be good enough to get into the playoffs. But I think when you see, this roster going up against, KT, Kingszone, KSV in these, bigger, longer series, I don't think that SKT will be able to best them, even with the unkillable Demon God in the mid lane.
Yeah, they'll have to go on quite a nice win streak if they want to
Big
go
time.
to MSI. And one of the big secrets to going on a big win streak in League of Legends is sitting in a DX Racer chair, just like these ones we have here. And if you use the promo code SHOTCALLERS, you get 15% off all products at dxracer.com. That's how you win games.
Yeah.
You sit comfortably.
See, I don't know if you just take it for what it is. I'm not saying it's 100% true. I'm not saying it's not true. I've won every single game that I've ever played in a DX Racer chair.
Wow.
It's
That's
a
just a
real big
fact.
boost.
Well, there you go. Shot callers.
Fact might be the wrong word.
Fact.
It's a statement.
Statement. It's a true statement.
Based on a real story.
Yeah. So that, how can you get more
If
legit
Hollywood
than that?
can do it, I can do it, right?
Can't get more legit than that. That's it for this show. Thank you so much for sending in your questions as always. Apologize we didn't get to them all, but we do appreciate you guys sending them all in. We'll be back on Monday for some Get Boosted action at 3 p.m. and we'll be going over the power rankings for week 4. Expect a lot of movement in NA and EU, and then we're back again on Wednesday for another episode of 5v5 Live. But there's plenty of matchups to be looking out for this week in both NA and EU. So for Eric Kummel and Mark Horner, thanks very much for watching and enjoy the games this weekend.